Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla presented a report on the impact of the U.S. economic, commercial, and financial blockade against Cuba in 2022. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confirmed he has agreed with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, to create a natural gas hub in Türkiye. China's President Xi Jinping acknowledged his country's role in Africa's social and economic development during the 20th Congress of China's Communist Party. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla presented a report on the impact of the U.S. economic, commercial, and financial blockade against Cuba in 2022. The Cuban Foreign Ministry announced on social media that Minister Parrilla will present the document to diplomats accredited in the country. Parrilla listed the economic loss the island experienced due to the inhumane policy and stressed its foundations have not changed under the Biden's administration, despite his promises of another approach on Cuba. The foreign minister also stressed Cuba faces a harsh economic situation as it is difficult to acquire foodstuffs, medicines, and to repair parts of the strained national power grid, which is affecting Cubans' daily lives, while the island face the aftermath of COVID-19 inflation, also the surge and the economic recession. On November 2nd and 3rd, the Caribbean island will deliver the report for the 30th time before the United Nations General Assembly, demanding to put an end to this criminal policy that has harmed Cuba for more than 60 years. In Brazil, the candidate for the Workers' Party, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, announced that he will work to counteract the political radical trends promoted by the current president, Jair Bolsonaro. The former president and presidential candidate pointed out during a press conference within the framework of the electoral campaign that he intends to form an alliance with several political sectors to fight against the expansion of far-right in the country. Lula da Silva highlighted that he hoped to organize the democratic forces of the country to stop the negationism, barbarism, and fascism promoted by Bolsonaro. Brazil's former president and presidential candidate for the leftist Workers' Party, the PT, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, met with representatives of the Evangelical Church in Sao Paulo. Frontrunner Lula, who seeks a comeback as Brazil president, led several initiatives during his administration to guarantee religious freedom and has emphasized that no other president has taken a stance on behalf of the creation of churches and the free practice of faith as he did, ensuring that the state have no religion and no church, and that it will ensure the functioning and freedom of many churches. For his part, rival candidate Jair Bolsonaro has openly stated that he is linked to the evangelical churches. The Legislative Assembly of El Salvador approved on Tuesday, by majority and with the rejection of the opposition, the special law for the exercise of the suffrage abroad to allow the participation of the nationals living abroad in the country's politics. The bill passed with 66 votes in favor, 10 against, and 4 abstentions, and will allow Salvadorans living abroad to vote and run for the 2024 elections. The new norm includes electronic voting by internet and in person abroad, for which the diplomatic offices will be enabled to such purpose. The parliamentary fraction of the opposition Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, the FMLN, previously announced that it will not vote for, considering that the law leaves legal gaps and does not guarantee a transparent process. The president of the Legislative Assembly, Ernesto Castro, stated that this vote marks a historic day, since it gives back to their fellow countrymen abroad the right to participate in the governance of the country. On Wednesday, the government of Bolivia reiterated the call for dialogue to the Interinstitutional Committee of Santa Cruz and also pointed out that the region's pressure measures are delaying the process. After the call, the presidential spokesperson Jorge Richer assured that dialogue is still on the table and that it could take place during the day set. Richer considered that the problem does not lie in Decree 4760 that regulates the population and housing census in 2024, but in the willingness to establish a decision to carry out the survey. He also insisted on the need for dialogue on the collective construction of agreements and for setting a date for the beginning of the census. The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Coordination, OCHA, in Haiti reported on Wednesday an increase of 222 new cholera infections in the country between October 13th and 17th. According to the agency, 78 confirmed and 835 suspected cases of the disease were registered during the last 24 hours. In this regard, the Health Ministry specified that the suspected cases were detected particularly in the central departments and in Artibonite, pointed out that one of the epicenters of the disease is the prison of Port-au-Prince, with 271 suspected cases, 12 confirmed cases, and 14 fatalities. These figures sound the alarm of the risk of a new wave of cases amidst the humanitarian and security crisis facing the nation. Haitian social and political organizations asked China and Russia to veto any United Nations resolution regarding the deployment of foreign troops in the country. Upon the request, the organization Haitians Against the Occupation recalled that the United Nations peacekeeping forces sent in 2004 to stabilize the country left hundreds of children orphaned by the systematic sexual abuse and exploitation of Haitian women. The petitioners also indicated that the de facto government of Prime Minister Ariel Henry has shown no interest in solving the current chaos in the country. Civil society groups, political parties, and trade unions further argued that any international effort to restore order in Haiti must be followed by a change of government and not support the current illegitimate administration. We'll take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In France, the multi-union strike demanding better wage and working conditions has taken a toll on residents and workers, despite that many of them support the union's strike.
2 hours every day today is to fill up the tank, just to be able to work. It's difficult, but at the same time we are kind of in solidarity with what's happening. Application is not reliable, so I go where they tell me there is petrol. I go all around. I end up in Montparnasse at 4:45 in the morning, of course, and I finish filling up at 7:30. So from 2 in the morning until 7:30, then I start 11 hours of work. It's really physical and more fatigue and everything.
The special representative of the UN Secretary General for Kosovo, Caroline Ziadeh, told the Security Council that the escalation in political rhetoric between Pristina and Belgrade threatens to undo the mediation established by the European Union. Kosovo's relations with Serbia remain strained despite continued mediation by the European Union to normalize the ties. The conflict erupted in 1998 when ethnic Albanian separatists in Kosovo revolted against the Serbian government, with the support of NATO, which bombed Serbia to force Belgrade to withdraw from Kosovo. However, Serbia and 95 other countries in the world do not recognize Kosovo's declaration of independence since 2008.
Since last spring, we all observed several escalations in political rhetoric between Pristina and Belgrade, as well as few moments of acute tension on the ground. These threaten to set back many of the gains previously achieved through the EU-facilitated dialogue.
According to the UN Secretary General's envoy to the region, there are risks of serious consequences due to the potential confrontations on the ground.
Interventions, along with a top-level dialogue meeting on 18th of August, led to temporary relief in the form of extended deadline and promises to continue discussions. Yet, the parties' willingness to risk dangerous confrontations on the ground at best set the process back. At worst, it may lead to much more serious consequences, even if unintended.
Now we move on to other topics. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confirmed he has agreed with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, to create a natural gas hub in Türkiye. The Turkish head of state made the announcement during a press conference on Wednesday. President Erdogan also mentioned that Western countries are concerned about solving the energy crisis while Turkey does not have such a problem. Last week, on the sidelines of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia summit in the Kazakh capital Astana, President Erdogan held a closed-door meeting with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, who at the time proposed to build a natural gas hub in Turkey. After the meeting, both heads of state announced that Ankara and Moscow will work jointly on building a natural gas hub in Turkey's Thrace region.
Right now, Europe is looking for sources of natural gas. Fortunately, Turkey does not have that problem. Now, I hope that our country will also be a hub for natural gas. In our last meeting, we agreed with President Putin on this issue. We will create a hub here with Turkish gas coming from Russia. In his own words, President Putin said, Europe can get its natural gas from Turkey.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday introduced martial law in Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions.
Let me remind you that martial law was in effect in the Donetsk People's Republic, the Lugansk People's Republic and the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions since their entry into the territory of Russia, and now it is therefore necessary to apply this law within the Russian legal framework. Therefore, I have signed a decree on the introduction of martial law in these four subjects of the Russian Federation.
After introducing a martial law in Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, President Vladimir Putin granted additional emergency powers to the heads of all regions of Russia.
In the current situation, I consider it necessary to give additional powers to the heads of the whole Russian regions. The corresponding decree was also signed today. Top officials of the entity of the Russian Federation should pay the necessary attention to the implementation of measures designed to ensure the safety of people, the protection and anti-terrorist security of critical facilities and the maintenance of public order.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In a report delivered by Xi Jinping to the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, the CPC, has brought wide-ranging global benefits to the people of Africa, according to analysts from the continent. Members of Africa's media from Kenya have been closely following events at the ongoing Congress in Beijing, with a week-long gathering of delegates and officials reviewing China's achievements over the past decade and mapping out the country's future development direction. They praised the attitude adopted by China during the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party and also acknowledged the achievements of the country in several areas, as well as China's role in Africa's development efforts, especially in Kenya. On Wednesday, a bombing near the front gate of Myanmar's main prison for political detainees killed at least 8 people, including visitors and prison personnel. 5 people who were delivering packages to prisoners and 3 prison staff were killed when 2 bombs exploded on Wednesday morning. The blasts occurred inside and outside of the parcel reception office near the main iron gate of Insein prison in Yangon, the country's biggest city. The military's information office confirmed that an unexploded bomb had been found in a parcel. It also said that 13 visitors and 5 prison personnel were being treated for injuries at Insein Township Hospital. So far, there had been no immediate claims of responsibility for the attack. On Wednesday, U.S. and South Korean military personnel conducted a large-scale river crossing exercise. Around 1,000 soldiers of tracking equipment and military aircraft participated in the drills held in Yeohu town. The South Korean Army started the annual Hoguk exercise on October 17th, which aims to test readiness against North Korea's nuclear and missile possible threats. The drills are expected to continue until October 28th. Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Lee Yeon-kun said the operation was conducted as part of a national defense drill.
So the purpose of the training today was to conduct a large-scale combined wet gap crossing operation to validate the capabilities of both the U.S. and Korean forces. It's so far been extremely successful and demonstrated the strength of the ROK-U.S. alliance. We look forward to continuing the cooperation in the combined efforts that will be a key role in the success for future operations. We are definitely stronger together with the two nations.
Amid a cholera outbreak in several countries, the World Health Organization said on Wednesday that a shortage of cholera vaccines has forced a temporary switch to a one-dose strategy instead of the usual 2-dose scheme in campaigns to combat a growing number of outbreaks.
Around the world, 29 countries have reported outbreaks this year, including 13 countries that did not have outbreaks last year. Cholera is highly dangerous and can kill within a day, but it can be prevented with 2 doses of safe and effective oral vaccines. However, the current wave of outbreaks is putting unprecedented pressure on the stockpile. As a result, the 4 agencies have decided to suspend the 2-dose strategy in favor of a 1-dose strategy so that more people receive some protection.
Now we move on to other topics. The nation of Chad has been hit by exceptional floods that have affected hundreds of thousands of lives. In the capital N'Djamena, a group of tents have been set up to accommodate almost 2,000 people, as those affected are trying to salvage what they can from the ruins of their homes. In Walia, a neighborhood of the south of the capital, dozens of homes were ravaged last week after the Shari River burst its banks following torrential rains. Water levels rose up to 5 meters, which local officials said was unprecedented, and swept aside makeshift defenses put out by inhabitants. According to a provisional United Nations report, since the end of June, more than 300,000 people in Chad have been hit by the floods. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.